Welcome back. So now we're going to make a little modeling chocolate box, which is going to be really fun. So first you want to take your modeling chocolate, roll it out, and cut out some pieces. You can use any cookie cutter size, any kind of fun shape that you want. Again, we're going to do hearts because we're getting ready for Valentine's Day. So I got some red modeling chocolate and I cut out 2 little heart pieces. Now again, this has been sitting out. I've been working with it and everything, and so it's kind of warm. So you can put these in the refrigerator as well to stiffen them up. If for some reason you don't have enough time and you need it to stiffen up now, but yeah, you just don't have enough time even for the fridge or something, a really cool trick is you can take a little bit of your melted chocolate and wipe it, just a thin layer on the back of your modeling chocolate piece, and then that will stiffen up and dry, and your piece will be completely stiff and dry for you. So that really helps when you don't have a couple hours or a day or whatever to let your pieces set up and dry. So I'm going to put this on our pan here, and I'm actually going to turn it over onto the wax paper onto the side that I've painted with the modeling chocolate, because that's actually my bottom, and so it's okay if it's a little bit marked up, and it needs to sit against the wax paper to help it stiffen up and everything. And then I've got another piece here. This is going to be the top of our box, so I'm just going to paint this one as well. So, because you want the top of your little box here to be nice and stiff as well. And you don't have to use a cake decorating spatula. You can use a paintbrush. You can use a regular little kitchen knife to spread it on there. You just want to make sure it's really nice and thin so that it just doesn't get really sticky and thick and everything and kind of ruin the little piece that you cut out so nicely and you're working on. Okay, so after you let those set aside to set up and everything, or while you let it set up, we're going to roll out a long strip here of our modeling chocolate so that we can put it around the edges of our box. Now with this little box thing, you want to make sure, I'm going to need a bigger piece. You want to make sure that it's really thick. The thicker it is, the better it will be, the better it'll stand up and be firm, so it'll stay like a box instead of falling over. You don't want it to fall over and cave in or anything like that. So we're going to knead our modeling chocolate here a little bit. And also if you add a little bit of powdered sugar to it, it'll help stiffen it up for you. Okay. So again, we're going to roll it into our log shape and then roll it out, because I want a nice long thick piece so that we can have our box stand up. So I'm talking like 1/2 inch here is how thick you want it to be. You really want it to be very thick, and you can play around with the thickness. You can try different thicknesses and stuff to see what works best, and sometimes thinner works better for different projects that you're doing. If you have more time to let it set up and dry and different things like that, then you can go for a thinner piece if you want it to look more delicate or something like that. Okay, there we go. Now to make sure that this is long enough, we have, or I had, there we go, a piece of twine, and this is the cookie cutter that I used to cut out the top and the bottom. So I'm just going to wrap this around my cookie cutter and make sure that, okay, so this is how long it is. Okay, yeah, this is almost just a little bit longer than this piece of twine, so that's perfect. You want it to be just a little bit longer, and that way you can cut it up as you need it. If it was too short, then that wouldn't really work. So again, get our ruler and our cutter. We're going to cut this out, and I really like this ruler. It's a good thickness. It's about 1 inch thick, maybe a little bit more than 1 inch, like 1 inch and 1/4. And so that's how thick, how tall I like my box to be. If you want it to be taller, go ahead and cut it taller and everything. Sometimes the taller the better, but it just depends on what you're going to put inside of it. You know, you can fit more stuff in a taller box, a deeper box. So actually we'll make this a little bit taller then, so we can fit some good stuff inside of it. Okay, so we've got our extra pieces here that we'll set aside, and again I'll cut off the edges here in just a minute. So then I'm going to take my cookie cutter, and I've turned it upside down because it has this little loop thing on the top here that it hooks onto, and so I don't want that to run into my modeling chocolate. And I'm going to shape this around my cookie cutter just to get the basic shape of it. Now obviously this is going to be a little bit bigger than the pieces I've cut out. So you can either do it around the cookie cutter, or you can take these pieces, which is now set up and are nice and stiff, and you can do it around the outside of those, whatever you want to do. So since those have set up, we will actually do that. But you can also do it around the edge of your cookie cutter, then set that inside the refrigerator and let it set up. That works out really good. Okay. And the little tiny heart piece, like the little wedge here in the heart, is always one of the hardest things to get. But a fun little trick that I use is I take my paintbrush and I use that to wedge it in there, because it's just the right shape and it makes it look really cute and nice. Okay, so we're going to do that. Now the other thing, as you're putting this on here too, is you're going to want to take your paintbrush and dip it into your melting chocolate and start painting around the edge here of your heart base, so that the edges, the sides of this box and the heart base start to stick together. You can also pipe it on with some melted chocolate in a piping bag. That works out really good too. I kind of like using the paintbrush because then, you know, if I get a little bit of excess chocolate somewhere, I can always use the paintbrush to smooth it out, to fix any little things that don't look right or something like that. So yeah, this is turning out really good. So we'll paint the other side here. I'm just painting the inside where the base meets the edges of this modeling chocolate here on the sides. Perfect. I actually want to push that in a little bit more. There you go. And I really like the thickness of this because it's standing up really nicely. It's not collapsing anywhere. Okay, so now we're going to take our X-Acto knife and we're going to make a nice straight cut here where the two base pieces meet. And I want to make sure I cut both of them because they were not very straight when I first cut them. And one of them is going to overlap the other, which is just fine. Just a little bit. Trim off that base piece here. Now you want to make sure that you're very careful with your X-Acto knife when you're cutting on these silicone mats. It will go through very easily, and so if you're afraid of doing that, then just use a kitchen knife. They're dull enough so that they don't go through very easily, sharp enough to cut through your modeling chocolate or your fondant, but when you use the X-Acto knife, it does tend to go through very easily, so you want to be careful. Okay. So now I'll turn this around. Here's my edge pieces. I'm just going to paint some chocolate into there and push them together. And then later on, when that all dries, I can go back and kind of smooth things out so that it looks more connected and pieced together. Okay, beautiful. This looks great. So now I'll pick it up and show you. So we've got this cute little heart box here. We've got our lid that goes on top. Well, when you want it to go on top after it all sets up. You really don't want to put the top piece on until it's all completely set up. So we'll put that in our fridge, let it set up, and then I'll show you one last little cute candy cup that you can make, and we'll be right back.